your NFL team according to your Premier League team. So you might be thinking about getting into the NFL. Cool! Excuse me for shouting. But you're not sure who to support. Well, maybe I can help. Well, you might be a fan of a Premier League team, so let's try and take some of the traits, some of the history, some of the culture of that Premier League team and try and find the NFL equivalent. I'm Jay Lawrence, by the way, new to this YouTube game, but if you like the NFL, make sure you give me a subscribe. If you are an Arsenal fan, I reckon you should consider supporting the Houston Texans. They are the cool kids team. Both teams at the moment are looking like they could make some damage at the top of the table, whether it's being a Super Bowl contender or whether or not it's winning the whole of the Premier League. This could be very out of date very soon. After a few years in the doldrums, it finally looks like both teams are genuine year after year contenders. And they've got some amazing players to back that up. You've got CJ Stroud as your quarterback, Stephon Diggs as your wide receiver one with the Houston Texans. Quite a difference from literally 12 months ago. And what about Declan Rice and Martin Odegaard? That's not too shabby a couple players for Arsenal. If you're an Aston Villa fan, consider supporting the Detroit Lions. If you ask any Aston Villa fan at the beginning of this season, do you reckon that we could get into the Champions League? You've got to be honest with yourself, Villa fans. You'd have said, probably not. If you'd have asked any Detroit Lions fan, can we get into the NFC Championship game, they probably would have said, history tells us otherwise. The fact of the matter is, Aston Villa look like favourites to get that number 4 place to get into the Champions League, and the Detroit Lions arguably should have got into the Super Bowl. Two teams that have been underdogs this whole time, but two teams that have proved so many people wrong. So you're a Bournemouth fan. This one's going to seem a little bit out there. Consider the Green Bay Packers. In terms of history, in terms of success, I'll be honest, they're not quite the same. The Green Bay Packers have been distinctly successful for decades and decades with some amazing coaches and amazing teams. But I think we should consider what each team is in relation to the league. Now, the Green Bay Packers is an incredibly small market team. It might not seem that way, but it is. Green Bay, the town of Green Bay in Wisconsin, is not a big place. Bournemouth is the same. If you want to support a team that has that community feel, that has that sense of being a small club within a larger league, then maybe Bournemouth and the Green Bay Packers should go hand in hand. What about Brentford? Now, this one might actually just be like a temporary thing. It depends how the following team get on this year. I'm going to go with the New York Giants, and I'll tell you why. Brentford, they're a London team. I reckon you go to lots of places around the world and you say, where is Brentford? Tell me, here's a map of the UK, where is Brentford? I think a lot of people won't know it's actually in London. Now, the New York Giants, obviously an incredibly famous club, incredibly big club. The only thing is, at the moment, they are kind of the forgotten team of New York. And the thing is if you're a Giants fan and you disagree with me, then that is absolutely fine. But I do think that there is a sense of truth in this. You've got the New York Jets with Aaron Rodgers and everything that surrounds Aaron Rodgers that are taking so much of the news. The Buffalo Bills, who have been contenders for years now, thanks to Josh Allen. New York Giants, that could change, obviously, but for the moment, Brentford, Giants. You're a Brighton fan. Brighton's a little bit like Miami, isn't it? Actually, it's not just to do with the location, though I suppose that you could say Brighton might be the closest to Miami that we've got in the UK, except Grey Yarmouth. It's more to do with their head coach and the way that they play sport, the way that they play football. De Zerbi, McDaniels, both coaches that are in demand, that play football the way that lots of other teams want to play football. Now, Brighton don't necessarily have that winning culture of Miami the way that they did decades ago. I kind of like to think that, you know, if you're supporting a seaside team, you can support Brighton, you can support Miami. Burnley, this one's an obvious one. I'm sure you're thinking it yourself. If you're a Burnley fan, you're a Las Vegas Raiders fan. They're just similar places. Chelsea, so much TV action for Chelsea. There always has been, but there especially has been over the last 20 years. Dallas Cowboys are a similar team in that respect because Chelsea, over the last few years, they've not been great. They are still on telly all the time. People always talk about them. People always seem to care about them. Same goes with the Dallas Cowboys. They have not been relevant for a little while when it comes to getting into championship games, especially when it comes to getting into the Super Bowl, of course. Dallas Cowboys have not been in the Super Bowl for decades. Now, Chelsea have been more successful more recently than that, but over the past couple of years, I still feel like they are similar stature of clubs, but both of them need to be doing better than they actually are. Crystal Palace. How about the Tennessee Titans? Because they're just there. They're just there. Everton and the New York Jets. These are two teams that have been successful in the past. that can't seem to get out of their own way. Granted, they were both successful a long time ago, but it has been there. The success is ingrained in those teams. But mistakes, bad decisions in general, they have not done anything for either of these teams. As you can see over the last 12 months, especially with Everton's point deduction of the Premier League and the New York Jets, well, just loads of stuff. Just loads of stuff with the New York Jets. Fulham. Now, this is actually going to be the only one that I directly reference the owners of another team, because otherwise you could just go with like Arsenal and the LA Rams, for example, because they have the same owner. This time, though, I am gonna go with the owners purely because the Jacksonville Jaguars have made such an impact in the UK over the last decade or so. They have purposely tried to become the UK's NFL team. So I think a good amount of success, to be honest with you. Now, Fulham have that same family atmosphere. They always have, before Shad Khan owned the club, but I still feel like there is a community within Fulham, and there is a community with the Jacksonville Jaguars here in the UK especially. Those two, they go hand in hand. So yes, Fulham, Jacksonville Jaguars. Okay, with this next one, I think it's extremely relevant right now, but I don't know how it's going to go in the next 12 months. Liverpool and the San Francisco 49ers. I think it's fair to say the San Francisco 49ers, they are still going to have their same head coach in 12 months' time unless something outrageous happens, Kyle Shanahan. We know that in Liverpool, they are not going to have the same head coach in 12 months' time. Jurgen Klopp is leaving at the end of this season, but I still feel like at the moment, as it stands, both teams, they play a similar brand of football, they just happen to be a completely different sport. Swashbuckling football, rock and roll football. It's exciting to watch these teams play. You always know that they are going to be a good watch. Is that going to be the same when Jurgen Klopp leaves? I don't know, I'm not Nostradamus, let me be. Luton Town are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Luton Town, they're in the Premier League, perhaps a little bit surprisingly, and a lot of people thought they were going to play really badly and they'll be bottom of the league. Fast forward to the beginning of last season, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they were kind of in the same situation, to be honest with you. A lot of people saying, not only were they the worst team in the NFC South, they might be the worst team in the whole of the NFL. And it got proven quite dramatically wrong, to be honest with you. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning the NFC South, beating the Philadelphia Eagles, who were in the Super Bowl the year before, of course, to make it through to the divisional round. I think that that's a successful season for the Bucs. And if Luton Town managed to finish 17th, that would be a successal season for them. Manchester City and City, the LA Rams. They are like the team to support if you just want to like support like a cool team and like win stuff. But at the end of the day, they are very comfortable with just buying, trading. Both of those teams have just done that for the last few years. With the LA Rams, it's been very successful. They won a Super Bowl. With Man City, been very successful. They won the Premier League a lot, and also the Champions League, of course. So yeah, Man City, LA Rams, I do feel like there's some synergy there. Man United are the New England Patriots. I think a lot of people will disagree with me on this. They might say that Man United are the Dallas Cowboys, but Man United and New England Patriots, both very successful teams. Both could easily say that they have coined the word dynasty in regards to the league that they're in. However, it's not been the same over the last few years. In fact, it's been quite disappointing for both of those teams. Ever since Sir Alex Ferguson left, the icon, ever since Tom Brady left, the icon. Both of them are trying to get back to where they once are, and there's a bit of hope, don't get me wrong, for both of these teams, but it is faltering as well. Newcastle. I reckon Newcastle could be the New Orleans Saints, you know. A characterful place, full of a lot of love, a lot of friendliness, and with one particular icon for both of these teams. Alan Shearer for Newcastle United. He will always be the icon for the team. And Drew Brees for the New Orleans Saints. There's never be a better player for the Saints than Drew Brees. I think that that's fair to say. Both of them might be contenders in the future, but they will probably never have as good players as those two. Nottingham Forest are the Chicago Bears. Both of these teams have been incredibly successful in the past. The history of both these teams, there's not that many more successful teams in the UK than Nottingham Forest if we look back decades and decades. Same goes with the Chicago Bears as well. But it's fair to say that over the last few years, it's not quite been the same for either of these teams. Now, having said that, there is a lot of hope for the future for Forest. That involves staying up in the Premier League. And there's a lot of hope in the future for the Chicago Bears, #1 draft pick. Some similarities there if they're able to have a good few months. Sheffield is known as the Steel City. Pittsburgh has got a team called the Pittsburgh Steelers. If you're a Sheffield United fan, you should be a Pittsburgh Steeler fan. That's it, really. That's it. That's it for Sheffield. All right, Tottenham Hotspur. I'm really sorry, Spurs fans. I'm really sorry. Gonna have to go with the Buffalo Bills. Why? Because the Buffalo Bills are kind of your nearly men, to be honest with you. The Buffalo Bills were in 4 Super Bowls back to back. How many did they win? Ask me how many they won. None. Tottenham Hotspur, they are the league's nearly men. They've been in Champions League finals. They've lost. They have been so close to winning the league. They did it. But that's not to say that neither of them are unattractive teams to support. That's not to say that either of them are not particularly fun teams to watch either. But they just can't quite get over that last hurdle. All right, West Ham and the Philadelphia Eagles. This actually isn't anything to do with their history. It's nothing to do with actually the style of play or where they play or anything like that. This is all down to fans. West Ham fans, they are something else. Can be quite intimidated sometimes, let's be honest. And what about the Philadelphia Eagles? I think it's fair to say that that's exactly the same. Let's finish off with Wolverhampton Wanderers. And I'm not sure if this is going to be a compliment or not. It's not an insult, but it's not going to sound like a compliment either. I feel like Wolves at the moment are actually quite similar to the Seattle Seahawks in a way. Both teams are kind of safe. Both teams at the moment aren't really bringing me anything to think that they will be contenders higher up, or that they need to be concerned by how they're performing at the other end of the spectrum as well. Both teams are just sort of there until they prove otherwise, that they can be either further up in the league, more of a contender for a Super Bowl, or maybe we need to be a little bit more concerned about them. Pete Carroll got sacked from the Seattle Seahawks, not because he was bad, just because he was middling. Do you disagree with anything I just said? Let me know in the comments, and as I say, I am new to YouTube, so please click subscribe. It would really make me feel good about my life.